everybody. Welcome to ARE Live. I'm Marc Teer, the founder of Black Spectacles, and today I'm with Charlie Klecha, the president of the AIAS, and now just about licensed architect. You guys may remember that Charlie took all 7 exams in 7 days. He did that about 3 weeks ago. So today we're going to find out what the results are, how we prepared for all those exams, and we'll circle back and figure out what's going on with the past scholarship program. But first, I think I saw some new body art maybe on Facebook that you have. Can you enlighten me a little bit?
So this was my my celebration down in New Orleans when I got the results at the NCARB annual meeting. I had actually promised all along that I was going to get an AIAS tattoo. I promised that during my initial campaign. So that's the AIAS logo there with the compass and 58 for the 58th president. And then I also added these 2 playing cards added onto an existing tattoo, the 7 and 7, to commemorate my crazy ARE stunt.
Yeah. So all right, so tell me, so what happened? How did it go?
It was an overwhelming and unexpected success. I passed all 7 exams on the first go. It was quite a surprise. I was confident that I would pass 4 and hopeful for 5. So opening it up and seeing all 7 was quite a shock, but a very pleasant one.
So for folks who maybe don't quite know, so you've passed all 7 of the exams. Are you a licensed architect now?
I am not. Because Michigan and many other areas now participate in early eligibility, I was able to start testing before I've completed IEP. And actually, I am only a small percentage of the way into my IDP, and none of it has actually come from working in a firm. So I have about 2 to 2.5 years of work in setting A in an architecture firm yet before I'm actually licensed, which I am more than happy with. I think I've got the hard part out of the way, so I have no problem getting to work.
Yeah, and so being the president of the AIS and a newly almost licensed architect, have you had any luck finding a place to work?
I have. I actually just accepted a position with Quinn Evans Architects. Their major offices are DC and Ann Arbor, Michigan, but they have a satellite studio in Detroit, which is currently moving to a new location, conveniently a block away from where I live. They'll actually share that building with AIA Michigan and Lawrence Technological University's downtown studio.
Okay.
And they're looking to expand that office. They have a specialty in historic preservation and adaptive reuse. So with all the existing building stock in Detroit, they have a big opportunity to make a real impact. So I'm excited to be joining that team. Yeah,
that's awesome. But you have to tell me. I mean, tell me the story of you getting. I mean, what did you get? All 7 of the notices on the same day or something? And tell me that story.
Right.
Getting all of them.
I actually expected, because from what I'd heard, you get a notice saying your results are in for this exam. Go to your, log into my NCARB and check the results. So actually, I saw at some point that I had an email waiting from NCARB. I thankfully took a vacation right after the exam so that I wouldn't be stressing out about the results coming in. But the first part of that week, I saw I had an email from NCARB and just didn't even look at it. But it was just the one, and that kind of worried me. So then down in New Orleans at NCARB annual meeting, we did this kind of grand reveal at our table in the kind of resource area. And I just went straight to my NCARB and opened the My Examination page, and sure enough, right there, it just listed 7 passes in a row. I thought I was reading it wrong at first when I looked at it. Yeah. I eventually did look back at my email, and the email I did get was, "Congratulations, you've completed the ARE."
Wow.
So I'm glad I didn't read the subject line. I ignored it, because it would have spoiled the surprise.
Oh man, that's so awesome! I can't even imagine getting all. I mean, what was it like? What was it like that week? Did you? I mean, you took them at 9 o'clock every day for 7 days straight, or what?
They were actually. I scheduled most of them close to midday, because they were a little ways away from where I live in Detroit. So I had a bit of a commute, and I wanted to make sure I had time to get up, eat a good breakfast, do a little bit of kind of last minute review, flipping through some things, and get out there plenty early. So yeah, they were generally 11:30 or noon, and it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, had a weekend off to kind of recalibrate, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday had my job interviews, and Saturday I was off to Mexico. So
are you serious?
It was a very
So you took your last exam on Thursday, you had an interview on Friday, you went on vacation, you had 2 interviews on Friday. That's awesome.
It was a busy week.
Man,
Mexico felt great.
You're going to be so bored when you actually start practicing.
I know. I hear that a lot. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with all my free time.
Yeah, well, you have a background in radio morning shows, so
there we go.
You got a future there. Okay, so I guess the thing I'm wondering is, which exams, like what order did you take the exams in, and why?
So I did a little bit of research, kind of just poked around some blogs and asked a few people for recommendations. What I ended up doing was building systems, building design and construction systems, and structural systems the first week, and then construction docs, programming, planning, and practice, site planning and design, and schematic design the second week. Most of the references I'd seen and people I talked to said put schematic design last, which was fine. And then there are certain ones that kind of cluster together well. So I heard a lot that CDS, PPP, and SPD had some overlap, and then building systems and BDCS seemed like it made sense to kind of cluster those together. So both in terms of kind of the duration of the exam and kind of my comfort level with the exams based on kind of practice tests I was taking, it was a nice kind of sort of up and down. It wasn't like all of the hard ones at once or all of the long ones at once. It was just kind of a breakdown of how comfortable I felt with them and how stressed I thought I would feel afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about how you prepared and how, what resources and mostly how you went about preparing for. Because it's a pretty, I think for most people it's a pretty unusual undertaking to take all 7. It's super awesome that you passed all 7 of them, because I think now you lend a lot of credibility to this approach, and so people are going to want to know. All right, well, you did it. So how did you do it? How did you go about studying?
Right. So it was really as part of this campaign and just for love of the number 7. I really started studying 7 weeks out from my first exam. And this is all kind of documented at AIAS.org/7in7.
Okay, we'll add that to the show notes too, so people can check it out.
So I did weekly videos and blogs kind of talking about the steps in the process. The first thing was obviously for me just familiarizing myself with the exams themselves, the process, the content that would be covered. So that kind of went straight to NCARB. Had to do that to schedule the exams anyway, but then read the ARE guidelines, and then they have specific exam guides per division that break out kind of the percentage of the test that's on each of the content areas. And then from there, really just started with the kind of well-known resources and kind of worked my way through those pretty quickly. I knew, given the time constraint I was under and the fact that I was studying for all 7, it was not likely that I was going to have much success trying to read cover to cover and retain any of it.
Right.
So I pretty quickly started looking for other resources that were maybe a little more well-suited to my style of study, and again, the constraints I was under. I tend to be kind of a slow reader, so I was looking for more things like videos and audio and practice exams. I like to kind of learn the way I'm going to be tested.
Yeah.
So used that as a starting point, looked into several of them. Thankfully, because this was kind of a public campaign of the AIAS, many of the test prep providers were generous enough to provide those materials for evaluation and use. And then the other one I used quite a bit. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's the AIA ARE Prep video series powered by Black Spectacles.
I might have heard it.
I used those quite a bit. Again, thankfully, since I'm in the same building as the AIA, when they heard about what I was doing, we started a conversation, and they asked me if I would kind of start evaluating those ahead of time. Obviously, they already kind of existed within Black Specs, so I was aware of them before.
Right.
I watched every single one at least once. something I enjoyed quite a bit about those was the fact that they're broken down so well by topic area. So again, in looking at the kind of the proportions of content area that are covered in the exams, you can really kind of target what you know you need to study the most, the areas you think you're weak in. And Mike Newman was my pro practice professor in grad school, so it was a little bit straight. I was having a little bit of a like flashback to grad school moment, but also just he has a real knack for delivering that content in a way that's not dry and boring, and it doesn't feel like you're just being lectured to. He has good examples and speaks in a very kind of comprehensible way.
So let me ask you. So I mean, a lot of folks they'll just sort of they'll give themselves 2 weeks or a month and they'll focus on one exam, but you actually kind of jammed them all together in 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you found that there was any sort of advantage of studying for all 7 basically simultaneously. I assume, is that how you did it, or did you instead sort of focus on one exam in week 1, a different exam in week 2? Like, what was your approach?
Initially, it was kind of broken. 7 days a week, and I got 7 exams. So to a certain extent, early on, I tried to do kind of a different exam per day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a great deal of overlap, especially between certain exams. So I realized that wasn't necessarily helping as much as I thought it would, and also because I'm working a full-time job during the day, during the week, I had a lot more time on the weekends to put toward it. So then it just kind of became, okay, this day is practice exams. This day I'm going to read these 2 study guides, so it kind of got broken up a little more ad hoc than that. But it was pretty much just an all-out rush trying to get through everything I could. And there was some multitasking involved. There were a lot of times I had the Black Specs videos up on one screen and was working on the practice vignettes on another screen, like doing something that I know I can still pay attention to what's going on here, but not giving myself the answers to a practice exam while I'm taking it.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. I wonder, a lot of people get kind of freaked out by, the prospect of taking an exam. And in a way, it's kind of audacious that you would, kind of take all 7, sort of in one shot. So I wonder, what was your like mentality? I mean, obviously, so you were lucky, and we'll just say it out loud, right? Like the AIS paid, I think, maybe for you to take all 7 of the exams. So it wasn't your cash, maybe that was on the line. Whereas for other folks, okay, maybe it is their own cash that's on the line. So maybe that takes some pressure off of you. But even just sort of the money thing aside, you were still facing the prospect of failing all 7 exams one time. You've only got 3 times to take them, right? So what was your mentality with regard to that?
It was still very daunting. This whole campaign, to a certain extent, kind of started as a joke between Nick Surface, our executive director, and myself. And gradually, the more people we talked to about it, the more real it got, and the more we were kind of committed to it. And there were definitely a couple points where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is a lot of pressure. But yeah, you're right. It's having the exams paid for, and hopefully if you're in a firm, they do the same. I actually found out that Quinn Evans, where I'm about to start working, pays for the exams, so I could have delayed a little bit and done the same thing. But likewise, having all those resources at my disposal, that still doesn't change the fact that you have to put in the hours. That's, if there's one valid justification for not doing what I did, I would say it's that. It's the cost of the resources involved. But either way, you really have to be willing to kind of sacrifice parts of your life that you might otherwise enjoy. I had absolutely zero social life for those 7 weeks. My wife is 1,000 miles away in Michigan, so I had very few distractions. It was easy to go home on the weekend and just hunker down. But yeah, it's there's no shortcut. There's no easy way. A lot of people have been asking me since these results came out, like, what was your trick? What was the secret to doing it? And I was like, study hard a lot. That's about it. There's no magic to it.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe the last thing about this effort. You done it. You got through them all. You passed them all. So what do you think? What do you think about what you did, and what would you tell people who are watching and listening about what you did and your approach?
I think I would certainly understand anyone who was trepidatious to take on the 7 exams at once thing, but I would certainly say, at the very least, getting started, that even just walking out of that first exam was such a relief. Just knowing even simple things like what it felt like to walk into the test center and hand over your ID and get wanded with the metal detector and get your pockets turned out and all. Just getting used to that, the actual physical going into the test center and sitting down, what that space is like, what the room is like. But knowing kind of how that test feels in real life, even though I was testing with NCARB's practice vignette software and the AAP practice exams, it's not really the real thing. So getting through that first test is such a mental kind of switch. It makes it so much less unknown and scary and distant. So I would definitely say at least take the first exam. Other observations, I would say, and I've told people at NCARB this too, there have definitely been some things that I think were lost in the shift away from it always being all at once. In my experience, from what I've heard, back when it was only offered in June and it was 4 straight days, there was, everybody was studying together. If you were in an office, you knew all of the interns leading up to June were all going to be studying. The workload on the interns would drop significantly leading up to that because it was all studying together. It can now be a very lonely road. If you're not proactive about seeking out a group to study with, if that's something that's important to you, it can be pretty isolating. For me, again, because I was studying very fast and knew the constraints I was under, I didn't mind kind of just hunkering down and being kind of solitary about it. But that can be a significant factor in how you're actually studying and the mentality going into it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that actually makes me think maybe we could work to develop some sort of study group mechanism or something with what we're doing here at Black Spectacles.
And there are a lot of resources. I mean, AIA components are great about study groups. A lot of bigger firms have kind of committees or groups for the young professionals to kind of get together and work on that stuff. But it's still not, you're probably not testing all at the same time, so it's not quite the same. No,
that's interesting. I wonder if there's some way that we could collaborate with the components to develop some sort of a rhythm, almost in the entire profession, where everyone's sort of studying for similar exams. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for telling us really sort of your story, and I think it's super inspiring. And I love the approach personally because you just really kind of get this kind of mean, kind of pain in the butt kind of out of the way, and now you can look forward, and you've kind of gotten past it, which I think is so awesome. So, congrats to you, and good work. And so let's talk a little bit about the PASS scholarship. I believe the Indiegogo campaign that you had started has ended, and so can you talk a little bit about where that scholarship is right now, and for folks who still want to maybe contribute to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Indiegogo campaign was really just the kind of launch of that. Those are limited to 60 days, and I wanted that to really open the same time that I started the 7-week study period. So it actually closed just a couple days after I took my last exam. So in the meanwhile, we've built a permanent dedicated page on our website, same address, AIS.org/pass, but now those it basically just doesn't go through Indiegogo anymore. It's pretty much the same information in the same video. And it's actually better for us because Indiegogo is not collecting fees on it.
Yeah. Okay. And then tell me about your plans for actually for launching this thing and what the time frame is.
Yeah. So this fall we will launch a page on the website for recent graduates of the AIS to submit applications. There will be probably a brief essay or something, just because we graduate about 1,000 students a year. We're not sure how much response there'll be, how much interest there'll be, so we need to have some sort of objective or subjective criteria to select the scholars based on. But yeah, beginning in the fall, the way it'll work is applications will have to include a record of having passed an exam. So it's a reimbursement.
Okay.
But if you are, if you submit that pass as part of your application and have kind of submitted the other information in the little narrative,
Yep.
You basically get reimbursed by check from the AIAS. The hope is for this to be an ongoing thing, to continue accepting both donations and applications, and just, again, because it's rolling, people test all year round,
Yeah.
that we can just continue to move this forward. Like I said, the financial aspect is in many ways the most justifiable excuse not to test. So
Sure.
the hope of kind of the informational side of this campaign was to offset these sort of intellectual barriers, but the scholarship itself is intended to offset the financial ones.
Okay, and so if folks want to, if they want to apply for this scholarship, what's the website that they'll go to apply?
That'll eventually be at the same AIS.org/pass. We're actually in the process of redeveloping our website. That'll launch in July.
Okay.
So I imagine at that point, so either late July or early August, that same page will have options for both donations and applications.
Okay, so we'll put that link in our show notes so that folks can pay attention to that. And is there a newsletter, or is there an email list they may want to get on, so that they could kind of be advised when that thing gets launched?
Yeah, absolutely. There's our newsletter goes out to all our members, but you can ask to be added to that list.
Okay.
You can do that just by submitting an email to crit, CRIT @AIS.org.
Okay, awesome. And then, of course, you can follow AIS.org on Twitter. I'm sure you guys will be posting everything that's coming through there. So, okay, great. Well, first of all, like I said, congratulations on passing all 7. I look forward to. Was it you're 2.5 years away now from actually being an official licensed architect, pretty much?
Counting down. Yep.
All right, good. Well, I'm sure you're probably gonna work 90 hours a week, so that will probably just be an hour, or 1.5 years for you to get officially licensed.
Yeah.
So I look forward to it, and congrats also for the development of the PASS scholarship. I think it's a really exciting thing, and as you say, it's a great way to kind of make the financial side of taking the exam not an excuse any longer. So thank you very much, Charlie. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. And if you'd like to attend our next ARE Live broadcast, visit blackspectacles.com/podcast to register to attend. ARE Live is now a podcast, and which you can subscribe to on iTunes and Stitcher. It's also a YouTube show, I guess you could say, that we're running as well. So you can consume it however you want. And if you want to learn more about the AIA ARE Prep curriculum that Charlie talked about, go to blackspectacles.com. And we'll, like I mentioned, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And for those of you who want to get busy preparing for the ARE, if you're already an AIA member, you can visit AIA.org/ARE Prep to get a 15% discount for the entire duration of your AIA ARE Prep membership. And finally, please leave a comment below the video to let us know what you think and share any suggestions you may have. I promise we'll read every word that you write and use them to tune our next episodes. So thanks for watching.